It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Thursday, May 25th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is keeping going with our Goalies week, Russ.
Let's keep rolling.
Yeah, more draft eligible goaltenders to talk about all on today's show.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there. Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here each and every day with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube. We're also now on the Sirius XM app. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you'll get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Russ, a little bit of news before we dig into more goaltending conversation. The Men's World's quarterfinals start today. They had the day off yesterday.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Listen, I'm having fun with it because it is a meaningless tournament, so I'm kind of able to
not have
chill a little bit.
and
Yeah, like not get too emotionally invested, but also be
final if there are two good teams. But there's so many like mediocre teams. It's got to get to a certain point where I could care. That's all.
Well, that's what this is all about with the quarterfinals starting. And there was a great game, actually, the USA versus Sweden to end the preliminaries for USA. It was probably the best game of the tournament overall. Lots of really fun competition. The game was faster paced, really exciting game. And so USA is going to be facing Czechia this morning. Ronnie Adder actually got back into the lineup the last couple of games, so that was good as the seventh defenseman. But did get some good ice time, so that was good to see. And Cutter Gauthier, of course, is continuing to stand out for Team USA as well. So good luck to them in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Czechia is pretty good. They're not great, but they're pretty good.
Yeah. Another hint of some perhaps upcoming news: the Lehigh Valley Phantoms on their Twitter hinted that they will be repeating the rookie series again this year on social media. So I really enjoyed that last year.
Yeah, I was up there too. I liked it.
With the two games against the Rangers.
Yep.
And if they do that again, it's great for Phantoms fans. It's great for the rookie competition and kind of kicks off the game spirit of the new hockey season. So always love it.
And I get to go to White Castle because there's a White Castle up there, and there's nothing.
You always mention that White Castle
because it's my one opportunity. I get two opportunities a year to go to White Castle in Michigan of all places, and up in Lehigh. Figure it out.
All right. All right.
It's a big New York thing, but there's none in New Jersey. It's just weird.
There used to be, as was the plot of Harold and Kumar. Anyway, just kind of a quick recap of what we've been talking about in our goalie conversation so far. On Monday's show, if you didn't listen to that, you can go back. We did kind of a season in review for Carter Hart, Felix Sandstrom, and Sam Urson, and kind of where they're at and what we think the goaltending landscape will look like for the Flyers next year. But really the conclusion we came to on Tuesday's show when we started our draft eligible goaltending conversation is exactly why the Flyers must draft a goaltender in this draft, because the depth is just so lacking.
Yeah,
right?
It's just not there. Yeah, it's just paper thin. It's paper thin. It's not there. It's really not well cultivated either. Like there's not like even one that you would say, okay, if you had to go to a 1B in a year or two, we could use this guy, because again, I'm counting that Sandstrom's going to be out right at some point. So there's nobody. It's like Urson and then whoever else they just happen to sign, and I would re-sign Mayer, but they haven't yet. So whether they do that or not, and then there's nothing. There's not a lot.
Yeah, there really isn't. Alexei Kolosov is the only goaltender in the Flyers system right
You
now,
ever
and
seen a picture of him?
he's a giant question mark moving forward, given that he plays for the Belarusian team. He's in the KHL, could wind up staying there forever, who knows?
Yeah,
So I do think it is imperative that the Flyers draft at least one goaltender in this draft. And so we're looking to try and find the best bang for our buck here with the Flyers third round draft picks. Hopefully they will have one available, or if they can trade up to get one. This is the year to do it, I think, because they absolutely need to restock the goalie coffers. On Tuesday, we talked about draft eligible goaltenders Carson Bjarnason, Jacob Fowler, Adam Gajan, and Ewan Hue. And all of them really
good
interesting.
grouping.
Con- yeah, really good grouping. I am now like more emotionally attached to Jacob Fowler, which is going to be a problem when he gets drafted elsewhere. But that's for future Rachel to deal with, right?
Right. Yeah, future Rachel has to worry about that, or maybe the Flyers will draft him. I'm pretty high on Fowler, so I think it would be a heck of a pick. But again, you will he be there for the Flyers' first third round pick? I don't know.
I don't know either. But again, it is possible in the third round to package up lower
Yeah,
picks to move up even, 5 to 7 slots
yeah.
in the third round.
Hmm.
So I do think that is a worthwhile thing for the Flyers to consider for any number of these guys. I wouldn't for Hue
No.
necessarily, but I think for the other ones, if that's the Flyers guy, then like go get your guy, right?
Yeah, I would do it for Gajan or for Fowler. I wouldn't do it for any of the others that we talked about so far.
Right. And so on today's show, we are going to be talking about Noah Erlinden, Trey Augustine, and Michael Hrabal. And what's interesting about these three is they were the exact three top goaltenders in the U18 tournament
Hmm.
this year. So that's why it's like good to talk about them in the same conversation because they were at the same competition up against the same level of skaters. And it was really a good opportunity to see them all in action and be able to really compare and contrast.
Yeah, I think it's well put. Again, some guys are in different spots as far as where they are in their development. I think you're looking at some raw ability, some guys who are a little more polished, and also some guys that are close to hitting their ceiling already. So I think that's the mixture here.
Right. And, looking at the stats, Hue kind of was in that mix as well.
Hmm.
When you looked at him, but really ultimately when you do a consolidation of all the stats, Noah Erlinden was number one overall for goaltenders. Trey Augustine not too far behind, and Hrabal was third. So um, again, really solid goaltenders playing for some of the top teams in the world. Very interesting to me that a Canadian goaltender was not really part of this conversation at all,
It
right?
doesn't surprise me, Rachel. There's been a real drop in Canadian goalies,
Yeah.
and we've seen it happening the last like 5 years, and it's continuing.
Yeah, and the US wasn't necessarily the strongest in goaltending. I
No,
would say they're still like at the same level, but they have some really good goaltenders, but like never like those goaltenders don't tend to pan out quite as much, right?
and
Like
Bjornson's Canadian. He just didn't make the cut here. That's all.
right. Exactly. So, we will be beginning our conversation with an in depth look at Michael Hrabal, who may be, Russ, your favorite.
Could be.
Could be. We will find that out coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. I look better and feel great wearing Birddogs shorts and pants. Their stretchy fabric makes my legs look great, and they're comfier than my other shorts and pants. I'll tell you, I've been wearing them for a lot of different things: walking my dog, mowing my lawn. Now longer walks, not like hikes in the woods yet. Haven't graduated to the app, but so far they're really great. I have nothing bad to say, and I keep wearing them. They're perfect for tailgating, baseball games. They're comfortable in the parking lot, the stadium. Like I said, really good for long-term use. So go to birddogs.com/lockedonnhl. And when you enter the promo code LockedOnNHL, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order.
All right. So, like we said in the previous segment, it's been goalie week, and we are continuing that discussion today. Also, if you didn't listen to yesterday's show with Steph Driver, please go back and listen. It was such a
Really
fun
good stuff.
conversation. Got into everything with the new Flyers management and expectations and all of that. And are they messaging the team right? Really cool
I feel
to
it was a
get to
very
talk there.
honest show.
Yeah, I think so. Very, like, realistic
Mhm.
as well. All right, so talking about Michael Hrabal, he is Czech, as we just talked about, from U18s, but plays for the Omaha Lancers in the USHL, which is really, I think, an interesting move for him to come over and play in North America in the USHL. The biggest thing about him is his size. He is very large. He's 6'6", and that is just towering in net. But I think one of the great things about him is that he can really move. Like, he knows how to manage that frame of his.
He does.
And with a guy as young as that, to be able to have that natural ability to really understand how to do that, it is a really important thing to know.
The thing about Harabal that's so big for this was his first year here in the US and in the USHL, and they weren't a great team. So you have to
Right.
sort of forget the stats a little bit. You got to look at the raw ability. You got to look at the World Juniors, count that a little heavier. And yeah, he is my number one because uh, I do like the frame. I do like the way he goes post to post. Uh, he's got a long torso, and that's really good for goalies because you really can cover the upper portion of the net. His stick is really good, the way he poke checks away and gets out of trouble. He's a guy that it's hard when he hugs the post to find any kind of room. I mean, he really can nail that down. And he's always ready for that second shot. Like, you can take that first shot, but he's ready for you to take that second shot too. So I
Mhm.
just feel like there's good anticipation there. He's smart. I did have a long conversation with him. I think he's an intelligent guy. He's got his own goalie coach, which is great. He's practiced a lot of different things. He also is using the baseball glove, so that's something that's becoming popular with young goalies. And he does a lot of off ice training. And I just feel like, yeah, he's gonna. This is a guy where you're not even going to get the same guy in three. You're not going to have the same guy in 3 years. He's going to be so
Right.
much better than what you see now, and he's pretty good now. And that's where this is the guy that you have to project, and that's why I project him as a potential number one. And I do think it just it will take a little time. That's all, and I think you got to be willing to wait for it.
Right. And, once again, we talk about taking the central scouting rankings with a grain of salt because they did not include U18s in their assessment. But they have him ranked number 2 overall for North American goaltenders, which is interesting because he's Czech, but since he played here, they're counting him as North
Yeah,
American. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I
That's
know that
that's
is.
how it works.
It does mess with your head. It's not just you.
You're right. So, I think you mentioned that Omaha isn't a great team. Yeah, his record was 9-13-4 for them. And you really have to throw that out the window because considering how poor the team was in front of him, the fact that he had above a 900 save percentage, his goals against was under 3. I think you got to take that as a win, right?
Yeah, I watched him against the NTDP, and he was really, really good early in the year. So I saw what he was able to do against top competition and keep his team in the game, and that's basically what he did all year was keep his team in games, and that's what you're supposed to do as a goalie, especially if your team needs that help. So he's able to do that and shoulder that.
Yeah, and he was so good that the USHL named him to their all rookie first team.
Yeah,
So, that says a lot because they don't always pick out, team goaltenders on worse teams, right?
right. No, that's because there are a lot of good teams there, and so yeah, if they picked him out like that, that's kind of a sign that okay, he's really holding down the fort.
So, looking at where he's ranked, it's, again, with goaltenders, you never know with the rankings what that means in practicality for a draft. But, some of the rankings have him late first round, and some of them it goes all the way down to third round. And why do you think it's such a wide variety of placement for him?
I think they're trying to go with places that goalies have gone before, so they're kind of guesstimating that. Um, I don't think it's going to be first round, but I haven't done a mock yet. But I don't think it will be. I don't think a team um, down at the bottom will need a goalie that bad. But because right now we're looking at the teams that'll be presumably at the bottom, and really nobody really needs a goalie, including Vegas, because Logan Thompson's a really good goalie. So I don't know if anybody of them would reach and take one in the first. So I think it's going to be second, and I do think it'll be like sort of like I don't have him in my top 45, but I had him in my top 55, and I think it's going to be somewhere there, somewhere between like 45 and 55. I think I could see him going off, and maybe one other, and then top of that third, or really end of the second, or top of that third, they all start to go. Like that's where I could see that happening.
Yeah, I think it's just such a crapshoot with, where the goalies are going to get picked. But is this something where you would make a significant, you know, sacrifice of assets in order to move up to get him?
Well, if my team were in a spot where I don't know beyond 2 years what my future goaltending is, and my goaltending is just okay at the NHL level, uh, I would do a pretty decent outlay of assets to get him because I feel like you could see him in 3 years. So I got to figure out if I have a 3-year plan, because I think after two you can you can put him in the AHL. You might be able to put him in the AHL after one. You give him one more
Right.
year in the USHL. So that's where I'm sort of looking at him. And although I don't know, I mean, they're calling him North American, but based on the fact that he's Czech, I don't know who actually drafted him in the CHL. I'm guessing he might be able to play before he's 20. I don't really know that for sure. Um,
Well, he is currently committed to UMass.
right. So chances are he can go to the AHL after UMass. Um,
Yeah.
so you go 1 year more in USHL, year at UMass, then you see where he's at. Uh, yeah, I would trade if he was still available in the third round and someone near the top of the third hasn't picked him yet and was willing to make a trade. I called him. I would give them a third this year, uh, maybe even a third next year, and do that kind of a thing. And that's what I would do. I mean, that's or third this year, fourth this year. I think they have one fourth. I'll do it because I need a future franchise goalie. Like I just do. I don't know what's going to happen with Carter Hart. I'm just guessing. Even if Carter Hart resigns with the team, he's only going to probably resign for 5 years. That's my guess. So if he does that,
Yeah.
year three, I got Hrabal backing him up just in case. Right? That's the kind of overlap that have to have in my organization if I want to be successful going forward.
Yeah, and of course, like, you'll know by then, by year 2, year 3, if Samerson
Is the guy or not?
is the guy or not in terms of taking over in the
Right.
one spot, or is he that solid 1B that
Right.
works together with Carter Hart and you keep that tandem for a few more years?
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, then Urson could still stay there as a 1B, or Hrabal could be your one if for some reason Carter Hart's gone or he doesn't sign a second contract, whatever. But I have to. That's where that's what you have to project, and I would take that chance and project that.
Yeah, I think that is the wise move. Well, there are more options to talk about. We've got Trey Augustine and Noah Erlinden to talk about, an American and a Swede, and we will do that coming up next. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. So, Russ, the time has come where we will be talking about Trey Augustine.
Here we
And
are.
yeah, of course, he is the goaltender for the U.S. National Team Development Program, or their top goaltender right now.
Yes.
And he has been a source of consternation, I would say,
I think that's a
for
fair
us.
approach to saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, where he is a very good goaltender. Don't get me wrong. Will not, say anything different overall. However, he has been inconsistent in his play over the last couple of years and has, while I like him most of the time, he makes me incredibly nervous because when he has a bad game, it's a really bad game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I. It's funny. I was looking up a goalie. I've seen him play with, and also with this guy Dylan Silverstein, who is going to be draft eligible as well. And he was draft eligible last year. He didn't get drafted. Could get picked this year. He's going to Boston College. And I thought for a while Silverstein was better. And then, over time I said, all right, I give the edge to Augustine. But there's just, and he definitely seems like he has 1B potential. And I've spoken to other people too, and they talk about him. We're all talking about him like matter of factly, though. Nobody's really super excited, and and that's the part that I worry about a little bit with Trey Augustine. It's like, hey, he's steady as she goes. He's got a good glove. He does make the
Oh
right
yeah,
save, does make the right save at the right time. He's not the biggest guy, right? He like 6 foot,
he's 6'1".
six
Yeah.
one. So that's okay. 6'1's okay these days. I mean, you don't want to get too much smaller than that, though. And so it all sort of checks out, but I'm not fully there on him.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. We have the unique perspective here with Trey that he played both for the World Juniors team and the U18
Right.
team. And if you look at World Juniors, like overall, he had an excellent tournament.
Mhm.
However, when they played the stronger teams, when they played Canada, when they played Sweden, he allowed 5 goals against
Yeah.
in those games. And you really have to take that into consideration when you're trying to translate junior level goaltending talent to the pros. Where if you're going to be a rock star against weaker competition, but then falter a little bit against the stronger teams, we got to take that into consideration.
No, and I do because I remember that game and kind of remember like when it was at 3 goals, I was like, wonder how many more
Hmm.
he's going to give up. And that would have been nice to have like his biggest game then, but he didn't. So that's what we have to go by right now. And he's definitely going to college. I'm not sure where he's committed to.
Michigan State.
Michigan State. So that's a good school. Um, so yeah, I mean, if I were drafting Trey, it'd be at the bottom of the third round.
Yeah. I think he is a good goaltender, I think, to
Yes.
have in your system
Yes.
because he does need development. And I think, he's got a lot of really good skills. His positioning is great. His tracking is excellent. It's really just like the rebounds he gives up are
Yeah.
not good. And he just like that's something you can work on too,
Yeah. Rebound
which
control is fixable for sure.
right. So, and that's why I would not give up on him at
Mhm.
all. And for all the doubt I have about him, the things that I find problematic are absolutely fixable. And you give him, a couple years in college. I think he could really turn things around on that front.
Yeah, he could. I think he's like a guy I would expect to see in like 4 years.
I think so as well. And, it does sort of speak to quality of competition, but you look at his U18s, we mentioned these are the top 3 goaltenders from the U18s, right?
Right.
And if you look at that competition and his performance there versus at World Juniors, which is U20, knocked it out of the park. In the 6 games he played, 1.61 goals against average, 934 save percentage,
Hmm.
went 6-0. You can't ask for much more.
No, I mean, and that's a big barometer, like how you do against your age group, and he passed with flying colors.
Yeah, I think so. Our last goaltender of the week that we are going to do a deep dive into is Noah Erlinden of Sweden. He is in the HV71 organization and has played at different levels for them over the last couple of years. He's 5'11", So a much smaller
Unless
goaltender,
he
but
grows.
yeah. He has grown about an inch in the last year. I would say he's small but mighty. Really, I think took things up a notch over the last year. He played for Sweden in the Holinka Cup last summer, and that's when people started to really take notice of him a little bit. He's also very young for his draft class. I think he's only like a week or 10 days off the deadline with his birthday. So you got to think about that as well in terms of his
Yeah,
age and giving him extra time to cook. And in U18s, he had one rough game against the United States. He faced 41 shots,
yeah,
and he had 3 goals against, but all the other games he won. Even in a weaker performance against Slovakia, he had 3 goals against there too, but they won that game. He was the top goaltender in the tournament. He had 2 shutouts in the tournament. So he's really gained a lot of quality experience in net over the last year or so.
he was a horse. Like he was really, really good. Fastest post to post in the tournament. Just handled a lot of shots, like you said. That was really good. Good positioning. Uh, Very safe clears that I like. Very athletic, super athletic. And so you look at him and you say, and it's a shame to say, if he were 6'1", 6'2", he might be the first goalie to go. But the fact that he's not, I think, will hold back some teams. So then that's where you're looking third round as well. And so I think, let's say Hrabal's the first guy off the board, and then let's just say Fowler or Gajan go next. Then I think they're starting to look at him. So I
Right.
think that's sort of like the spot, wherever that might be in the draft.
Yeah, and you also have to consider, I mean, he is a Swedish goaltender. There's a certain history
Hmm.
to that, and in terms of the way the Swedes develop their goaltenders,
And
and
he'll play in the
especially
SHL, which is nice. And the nice part about
exactly.
that is you don't have to worry about signing him right away in a year or two. So that's you could really wait.
Yeah, I think so. He'll continue to play in that league, like you said, and get to the SHL level. I
Yep.
think which will be very good for him. I think that again, he's just a guy that's going to be a little bit of a project, and you let him cook, and he could be a really good option if the Flyers decide not to maybe trade up
Right.
and make a big push. He
Yeah,
could
this could be the second,
absolutely
third
be
round
there.
pick. If he happens to be there, I
Yep.
think it would be a sound decision. Like this guy could really play net. He's exciting. I think the Flyers, the same way, and again, look, he's not in the same class, but the same way that Ranger fans had fun buying like the Lundqvist Sweden jerseys, Flyers fans would have the same fun. There is something about like a goalie wearing a Team Sweden jersey that if he's good, it's really good. Like it looks good. You feel good about it. There's just something about that. I don't know.
No, absolutely. Yeah, there is this mystique to Swedish goaltending, and I think that Erliden is absolutely part of that.
Yeah.
And I think he could be the goaltender for the national team in Sweden moving forward for quite some time.
Mhm.
Looking forward to seeing him maybe at World Juniors next year,
Yeah, I think so.
and get more of a sense of what his play would be like against tougher competition. And again, would be a really, really solid option for the Flyers with one of those existing third round picks. Like I absolutely think they would not have to move to get
Yeah,
him.
no, I agree. I mean, just see how this is one of the ones where you say, okay, we have these other guys drafted, board on the board higher, but we're going to play some, poker here, and we're going to kind of just see how the chips fall on this one. And again, if goalies go sooner and you have a chance to trade up, and he's like that next goalie on the board, I'd still go up and trade for him too. I would,
Yeah.
even if it cost me my other third, because again, he's a goalie. And I know that future cost of goalies when you're trying to find them in free agency is a lot of money. So if I have to trade a third round draft pick compared to maybe like an extra 2-3 million one year on, well, it's more than one, but on a contract, that,
Right.
I'm going to make that decision too.
100%. Like we said, the Flyers are really in desperation mode, I would say, in terms of
Well,
having
they
a
should be. We don't
goaltender
know that
like
they are,
this.
but they should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. That will do it for today's show and our draft eligible goaltender discussion. We will wrap up goalie week tomorrow a little bit and maybe mention a few other draft eligible goalies that we have not looked at and why we are not talking about them in particular for the Flyers. We'll also have our mailbag on the Friday show, the way this week worked out. So get those questions in. If you have any questions about any of the goaltenders we've discussed this week, now's a good time to ask them. You can tweet us at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail, or you can comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.